Welcome to the Color Timer podcast. I am your host, Vincent Taylor. This is a podcast where we speak to professionals who work with color. Today, I am going to do my best not to sound like Roy Kent from Ted Lasso because I've lost my voice. So please forgive me. Today, we are speaking to Mr. Paul Harrison, a veteran colorist based at Resident Pictures in the UK. He's got over 2 decades of experience as a colorist, so I can't wait to pick his brains. It's going to be a great conversation. Let's go.
Take your seats because the hourglass is about to turn. We are entering the world of the micro podcast. Explore the craft, creativity, and science of professionals who use color to tell stories. Welcome to the Color Timer with Vincent Taylor.
Paul, welcome to the Color Timer.
Cool, nice. Thanks for having me on.
Nah, man, absolutely. It's awesome. Now, it's a big one. This is the end of season 1, so you're like the headline guest or the ending guest, or
Oh dear.
You'll have to excuse my voice. It's barely holding on, so it's all that talking I'm doing. All right. Oh, I've got to start my timer because I always forget.
All right. Yeah.
Start the game show.
Okay.
All right. So you're a colorist, and you have been a colorist for a very long time, a couple of decades.
Yeah.
If there was a color you could do without, which would it be?
Oh my God. Well, I won't say green because everybody says green, and I actually quite like green. So I would say yellow.
Okay.
Yellow gives me it's the most problematic color because some people see it as green. They see a bit of a green in there or some. And it just gets into everything. And then it's like the systems can't quite see what we see when you want to try and dial a little bit of it out.
Yeah.
It just starts to other things get affected. It's that yellow-green thing, that boundary is not quite defined enough for my liking.
You know what? I'm going to agree with that because the biggest thing that I'm always chasing is, green grass. Because people are going, it's too yellow. Oh, it's too green. Oh, it's too...
Yeah. It's like walking that tightrope, and then obviously everyone's eyes are a little bit kind of different, and they see it. Yeah, that's how I would say. It's
interesting.
It might be a weird-looking world, but it would be interesting to see.
Now I'm gonna ask you a question that you're probably so bloody sick of, but I want to know, how did you start? How did you get into this crazy world?
It's weird. I kind of by accident through a friend. I was working on as a production runner.
Yep.
And my friend's girlfriend was like who she'd got me into it, and after I'd been doing that for a little while, ended up helping out on sort of video, doing the sort of video techie kind of side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, and a friend of mine, he's the boyfriend of the girlfriend, his girlfriend who got me in, right, rather than using names. He said, "You need to come and look what I'm doing. I'm working in a post-production house." And I was like, "What the hell is the post-production house?" So went in there.
How old were you? What
I
age
would
were
have
you?
been about 24, 5, round about then, I think, at that point. So I went and had a look at what he was doing, and it was all the same equipment I was just lugging around and, taking on shoots and rigging up on shoots and using that stuff. This will be easy. I could just sit down all day and press buttons. I don't have to actually carry this stuff around. And then I started doing a bit more digging into post-production and found telecine. And it just kind of, there was an article in one of like Broadcast or one of those magazines, and it had a whole write-up about telecine and about grading and what it was all about. And I just looked at this and thought, my God, this is amazing. This is like, because I like photography. I was always taking photographs. And this was like, my God, I can do this for a living. So I just kind of went and hit up all the London post houses, and I just took my CV round to them and made sure I got in the door and got to actually see somebody and not just, send it in. And I ended up at the mill. as a runner, and made it very clear that telecine was what I was after, and what I wanted to learn. I saw the Pogle. Did you ever
Yeah,
go at the
that was
Pogle?
that's what I started on.
Yeah, right. Okay, so
Yeah,
I looked at that, and that just looked like, wow, I need to know how this works, even though there was nothing written on any of the buttons, pretty much.
yeah,
I've got to know how to use this thing. So after being a bit of a pain to the guys, they said, look, go and get a roll of film. We'll teach you how to use it so you won't break it. And that was it for literally from like the get go. I was doing short films and music videos for no money jobs,
yeah,
and I was kind of earmarked for telecine. So as a result of that, my training within the post production world, like in the mill, was machine room, learning all about basically building on what I already knew,
yeah,
but using D1 machines, and I just about missed the 1-inch tape. Didn't need that, but it was UMATs, digibeaters, all D1s and all that kind of thing. So I had to
yeah,
learn what time code was used for, and how to how you in telecine, that the importance of getting everything right and making sure that you had the time code was correct and your punch up, all of that
yeah.
stuff that we.
There was obviously something at the fact that you glimpsed what was going on with telecine and that whole world of color that just hooked you in, because you sounded so focused that's what
Yeah,
you wanted to
yeah.
do.
It was the initial interest was that I really liked the idea of working on film and working on images and
Yeah,
creating something from that, from just being a part of the film business from that respect. But once I actually got in there and I started using using the equipment and learning what I could do with it, and the possibilities of it, and how what I did on that screen was just made me feel something, and so what it's going to
yeah,
make other people feel. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I
That was
do.
that
Yeah,
was the thing that I was just like, wow, this is like magic. This is, I don't, sort of tinker around on the guitar a little bit, but this was like something else. This is kind of like a dark art that I was learning. These guys, they were sort of teaching me, but not teaching me.
I totally get that. I remember that feeling of just being excited.
Yeah, 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 exactly. You'd go to work, you'd sit down, you didn't know what you were going to do that day, how you were going to do it, but you just did it.
So fast forwarding 2 decades,
Yeah,
right, or longer probably,
yeah,
that you've been doing this. I've got a nasty question for you. It's so
yeah.
broad. What do you think is the most challenging thing for you as a colorist?
Oh my God. I think coming up with interesting grades. Keep me out, because I think that after lots of years, you're comfortable with people. That's not
Yeah.
the thing, and you are grading for them, but you're also grading for yourself,
Yes.
and it's to constantly be pushing yourself and not resting on your laurels and thinking, oh yeah, I've got this, I can just do this all day long, standing on my head.
Yes.
But it's keeping that drive and that interest going. And obviously, I mean, we learn constantly because everything's changing. Has been for years, isn't it? All the technology's changed and the cameras have changed on the other side, on the production side of things. But I think staying interested and just keeping that kind of spark alive in you, that after spending decades sitting in a dark room looking at images, that you're not fed up with it, that you're still interested and you're still pushing yourself to do something different, to try that, and then also selling that into your client.
Do you know? Do you have any inkling as to how you do keep that spark alive, or is it just a conscious thing that you're conscious of doing that?
I almost try what straight away comes, and you go, right, okay, let's do something, park it, let's try something else, park that. So it's a case of not just going with your first instinct. I think it's seeing how you can turn it all on its head and do something else with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, but it's also obviously like trying to find something that works for the show or the commercial or the film, whatever it is you're doing, that's going to work with the images, but giving it a little bit of a twist that's more interesting than just doing, because most clients will be happy with a kind of a decent, balanced look, won't they? A lot of the time, DP certainly, absolutely. A lot of them, that's what they like. They like their photography on the screen, but it's giving it a little bit of extra something.
Yeah,
that I think is the thing, and it's not just being happy with. Everyone says, "Oh, that looks great," and it's like, well, yeah, but let's try something else, and let's put it all to pieces again, and then let's try and push it a little bit more, but not in a outlandish way, but somehow that takes it up a level compared to everything else that's you're seeing at the moment that's out there. It doesn't look like it's just had a LUT put on it. And like next shot kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just I think it's just pushing yourself a little bit more, and in terms of asking a little bit more from your clients. Somewhere.
Yeah, we've kind of been touching on this idea of being, making sure you don't get stuck and and always growing.
Yeah.
Now you work on Baselight.
Yeah.
And there's a new release of Baselight that's coming out at some point, and everyone's very excited about that.
Yeah.
And how do you, there's some new tool sets coming out.
Yeah.
How do you dip into those? How do you break out of habits of things that you're comfortable with in your software and go, all right, I'm going to try this?
I think a little bit at a time. I think is probably the short answer to that. Is constructing a grade in the way, because I have used the new software. I'm one of the beta testers for it, and it's got loads of new toys. I mean, they do work in perceptual color space, so you have to run the system in a certain way. You can't necessarily work in a traditional, like a log workflow, because it doesn't really like that. It doesn't work that way. You have to kind of use it in a color managed workflow. But I think it's a case of using it in a way that just kind of tweak around the edges first to make sure that you don't dig yourself into something that is going to cause you problems later on, and gradually kind of introduce them into your workflow. I think if I'm working on a film, I've got a lot of shots to get through in not a lot of time, so you kind of don't want to be having to like fiddle around with like 200 parameters, just to try and get your look together. So I think it's a case of just you kind of you figure out what you need, and I think a lot of it is experimentation when you're not actually working, and having to dig around and having to play with these things and seeing what they do, and then just sort of storing that and think if you come up against something that you like, a problem when you're grading, or something particular look you want to try and find, you think, oh, actually, well, I can, go through the old Rolodex in your head, go, oh yeah, I can use that tool on that, and then start trying it out and seeing what it does.
How do you short form versus long form with projects?
Yeah.
How do you approach those jobs differently?
Well, yeah, that's a good question, because they are very different in terms of client expectation, and also the way you approach it as a colorist. I mean, you've got to, I think mentally, you've almost got to be prepared to be sitting on a shot for half an hour, grading a shot over and over, lots of different ways, like really kind of fiddling with the minutiae of it. Or you've got, 1,000 shots to get through in a couple of days, and you've got to get your look nailed for each scene and then go. But there's also all the workflow stuff that goes with that. I mean, the short form workflow is much simpler than the long form workflow. And your kind of expectation from your client will kind of flex accordingly.
In regards to clients, how would you say client expectations have changed over the years?
When I think back to when I started grading, and I was working on a much simpler system, the Pogle system had what it had. and that was it. It didn't have any more. It had its 6 windows if you were lucky, and its various primary corrections that it had.
Yeah.
You know, depending on obviously which machine you were on, you had maybe an extra set of primaries. I think that when we had that, we did a lot more. We pushed the grades a lot more, I think. When I look back to some of the work that we were doing, I don't know whether it's just because we were working on, we certainly had prints to work on back then, and obviously we were working on film for the bulk of the time, and a lot of the time 35mm. There is an inherent quality to film that you have to kind of really twist digital around to get to it, to get to that point. That's just kind of there in the film. Even when you're working on scan film, weirdly, I find there's something to it. But hello, dog. But I think that there was more expectation back then to come up with something different when you sat down at your desk and your clients come in and they sit down and they wanted to be kind of wowed a bit more.
Yeah.
I think, and I think it kind of gradually got watered down over the years. I think as clients got more, like I'm talking about end clients, not directors and producers, and I think they've gradually been worn down by the end client saying, "Oh no, we don't like that. That's too much. Why doesn't it look like the we used to say the one lights.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it look like the edit, which has just got a flat LUT on it, kind of thing?" When I worked in the States, it was all everything was quite bright and colourful a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Bit contrasty than generally a European grade would have been. So I had to you kind of do what you think you like, kind of thing, and they're like, "Oh, can you just turn it all up a bit?" And you're like, "Okay, fine." You turn it all up a bit. But I definitely think that the end clients are the ones who are calling the shots, and they want to be safe more so than they ever did before. I think the agency did have a lot more power.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
As per usual, my color timer has run out, and I'm supposed to stick to the rules. But I want to throw one last one at you.
Yeah.
And I don't normally do this question, but because of your experience, I think it would be a valuable one. And again, it's hard. But as a young colorist coming up, is there any advice you might throw at them right now?
God.
Yeah.
Oh God. Try and get in with try and get into a place where there's going to be somebody there who can mentor you.
Yeah.
Like, an old fart like me or someone else who actually cares about bringing talent through and recognizing that talent as well. It's very hard to do this in isolation. Coloring is it's a team sport, should we say, or should I say? And I think you need to have the eyes of your peers on your work to push you really and help you on that journey. Because a lot of the time your clients are happy with what you're doing, great, but you're gonna get more from another colorist saying, "Why did you do it like that? Why don't you try this? Why don't you try this next time? Why don't you try that control?" Who understands how you got to where you got, but giving you that little extra nudge to kind of up your game. That's I think getting in somewhere with good colorists where you like the reels. Look at it and just do your damnedest to get in there by somehow. That's
just like you did,
just like I did. Yeah. There's a bit of luck involved, but I think persistence helps. And I know there was a particular who was an old assistant of mine who used to come in as a freelance assistant, and he's hammered away at it, and he's just been nominated for an award in, I think, the MVAs over here. So you can do it. You just got to be persistent at it, I think.
Yeah.
And don't get disheartened, because it's not easy. It isn't easy.
It's not easy.
It's a quite a niche job, and not everybody can do it. A lot of people think they can do it, but to do it well, you've got to have a very certain special set of skills. I think special
Yeah.
being the operative word, because I think we're all a bit special, aren't we?
I'm not commenting on that one. Paul, thank you so very much, and I'm really delighted that you were the last guest for this season. It just seems kind of perfect, actually. Thank you, mate. Oh, Paul, thank you so much. Thanks for putting up with my bad voice. That's it. That's the end of season 1. I can't believe it. That's 12 episodes. Yeah, if this is the first one you've listened to, go back and binge. I would like to thank my executive producer, MixingLight.com. Now, MixingLight.com, it's a heck of a resource, like everything color. So please check them out. They can really, really help you out. Whether you're on Resolve, whether you're on Baselight, whether you're on Ucoda, it doesn't matter. They're there to kind of assist you, and it's such a great kind of library of things to dip into. I would like to thank my friend of the show, Filmlight. Thank you so much for supporting me through this. It's been awesome. And my producer, Kayla. And thank you so much for listening and watching and all the comments, the likes, subscribes, all of that. There is a chance we are going to do a season 2. So stay tuned. All the best. See ya.
The Color Timer, a micro podcast experience.